I'm going to go ahead and show you where release states come from. We'll finally get a look at the administrator module. The administrator module is where you would define release states in your library. So the creation of them is an administrator function, but the use of them is an authoring function. So to log into the administrator module is the exact same process as logging into a regular library, where you would select your library from the list here, hit OK, and then log in as your user. Now you have to have special security rights in order to log into the administrator module, which our supervisor or user does have. So I'm going to log in as supervisor, no password, and hit login. Hopefully your supervisor user would have a password set on their user account. Alright, so here's the administrator module. Not a lot going on here, as you can see. Now to set up release states, we'll actually go to the security menu, because release states are a type of security. They are an object level security. We'll go to the release states option here. Alright, so here's our window for setting up release states. Here's the different release states that we've set up in this library. Notice how they have a color associated with them. Alright, that color is going to be very useful for our authors because that's going to be a visual indicator for what state our content is in. So let's go here to author it. I'll show you here. Here are those release states in our drop-down menu. I can only see the release states that I'm allowed to use right now, and you see that color associated with them. Now if I select an object and then assign a state to it, yes, I'm sure, we see that those objects now have that color assigned to them. So I see these objects are in red. That's my visual clue to know, hey, these objects are in draft. But I can also see what state they're assigned to. Let's go ahead and move this column over so you can see that a little easier. And you can see, yes, they're in red. They're also in draft. So there's a visual clue there to know that your content is in the draft release state. What's also helpful is that from the search pane, I can go to in state and then do a search on content that's in a particular release state. Hit find now. So here are my objects. Alright, so you can start to see some of the uses for release states here. Now let's take a look at the security options associated with release states. Alright, so you can assign security to release states in one of two ways. You can assign it per individual user, or you can assign it at the group level. And we always recommend that you set up security at the group level because generally you'll have less groups than users, so there'll be less maintenance for you in the long run. So what you would do for each group, select the group from the list here, and then assign security permissions to that release state. So any object that is in that state is then assigned these security rights. Okay? And let's go through each one of them. List objects means you can see the object in the folder. Read the object means you can open it up and view it. Publish means publish, modify, and delete. Change release state. You can grant or restrict whether a user is even allowed to change the release state assigned to an object. You can choose whether they can use version control. You can choose whether they can change permissions on that object. And then here we have our object color. You can choose from any of these colors or define your own. And here we have something called review color. Now review color is something that is going to be very useful for you in your review process. Notice how these release states, technical review and editorial review, have a review color associated with them. The reason for that is because if an object is in a release state that has a review color associated with it, when that object is published to Word or PDF, the content in that book that is in a state with a review color will have that color highlighted on that content. So you could publish a document that has objects under review and give that document to your reviewer and say, review everything that's in yellow, or review everything that's in green. Everything else that's not in a review color is available for context, but I just want you to focus on the content that's in yellow or in green. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Let's go to a larger book, and let's go ahead and put some of this content in a release state that has a review color. I'm going to open up my X1000 user guide, and let's go ahead and select this set of objects here. Now I'm going to right click them and select change release state, and let's go ahead and select technical review here. Alright, and now let's go ahead and select a couple of these objects. I'm going to put these in editorial review. Alright, now if I turn on the detail view, you can see the state that these objects are in. You can also see their color. Alright, so let's go ahead and save now and publish to a print output so that you can see that review color. Alright, so for those particular objects that are in a release state with a review color, what's going to happen is you're going to see that color highlighted in the background of those topics. Alright, so let's go ahead and let this finish here. We'll take a look. Alright. So as we scroll through the document, you're going to start to see some shading on that content. Let's get to those topics here. Alright, so these topics had a release date assigned to them that had a yellow review color. If we go further down into the document, we're going to see some that had that green color assigned to them. Alright, so you can see that those release dates are applying a highlighting color to those topics so that you could provide that document to someone and say review everything that's in yellow or review everything that's in green. Now default release state here, this allows you, select that one, this allows you to say, whenever you create a new object, would you like to place that object into a release state automatically, or a default release state? Let's say that every time you create a new object, you want that object to be in the draft release state. So what we've done here is selected that object, right-clicked, and set as default. Now if I change my mind, I can always remove as default as well. Alright, so the creation of release states is an administrator function, but again their usage is as an author. Now it's not immediately apparent how you create a release state. You don't see an add button here anywhere, so how in the world do you create a release state? Well, you create it by just right-clicking in the white space here and selecting Add State. And then you'll give that state a name. Now you'll notice that these states have a numbering scheme associated with them. That's so that they sort according to your workflow. Alright, so otherwise they're going to sort alphabetically, and that may not be very useful for your authors. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll create a new state here. I'm going to create one called 00_import. because when I want to import content into my library, as we'll see in the next module, I want the import release date to be automatically assigned to that content. So this is going to be a state I'll use at a later time. Now let's go ahead and assign some security to that. So how do you assign security? Well, you can just click these boxes here, or you can right-click and select Check Row, and that'll check everything for you. You can also right-click a column and select Check Column or Uncheck Column as well. So we give you a little bit of a shortcut here for assigning or unassigning permissions to a release date. All right. So as you can see, you can set up release dates and their security to be helpful for you in your workflow process. They're especially helpful for the review process and handing content to people that may not be author users and getting their feedback on that documentation.